Hello and welcome to Boomer 11 podcast. Here we are going to talk about India versus South Africa. It was an exciting series, but India did not end up in the winning side, and South Africa maintained their pride record of winning against India at home. So I have Abhishek and Nirmal to talk about the match and also some interesting takeaways from the series because there are lots to talk about from the series because one of the key highlights has been India's brittle middle order, which is in the talking points again. And we have to talk about Indian bowling which again failed to take 20 wickets in an overseas test match in two consecutive innings. It's not something which we are seeing because in the last 5 years or so, Indian bowling has been very consistent. So I'll get to Abhishek first up. Abhishek, this test match again was a disappointment for India because it was a conclusive and a convincing victory for South Africa because they won by 7 wickets yet again, and they were very confident in their batting because they were chasing 212. You can say it could have been a tricky total. In 2018, when India was chasing 208, India struggled and South Africa won that match. It was Vernon Philanders that brilliant effort which took South Africa home. And it was a similar target to India, which was possessed yet again, but South Africa chased it quite comfortably. What do you reckon about that, Abhishek?
I mean, yeah, so you could argue that, South Africa being the home team, they know the pitch conditions better. But they played on the same pitch. India played on the same pitch. And it's not like the Indian team didn't get time to, monitor the pitch conditions and see, see to, decide on what would be the ideal, decision to go with after you win the toss. So, I mean, and India won the toss on all three occasions and all the three test matches. And I feel it's just, India failed failed on the implementation part of the deal over there. And, and it was the same old story, I feel, since the Australia tour in 2020, their middle order has been under the scrutiny for, that's been the main talking point, even though India won the series in Australia and England.
True.
And more often than not, it was the bowlers, bailing out the failures of the middle order of the Indian team. And it just so happened that in this test series, the bowlers failed to do that. And you can't just entirely blame the bowlers because they did their part in most of the test series in this test. Most they played their
Most
part in
innings,
this
yeah,
test series
true.
for most part,
Yeah, that brings me to an
except the
important
last
point
test.
as well. If you look Indian bowling in the last 5 years, I mentioned that we've been very consistent in picking 20 wickets overseas, and that's been our hallmark in winning test matches. Why? But when bowlers fail, isn't it batsmen's job to step up, which we have always done it? It's been you correctly pointed out. It was bowlers who was bailing us out, but here we didn't have
Hmm.
Mohammad Siraj, who has been our key spearhead in some of these overseas test matches in the last 1 year or so. He was not there. Umesh Yadav, who is coming after a long break into the side. And you don't expect Shami and Bumrah to, it can't be a two-man bowling attack. Shardul is definitely a good bowler. There's no disrespect to him. But he is not your frontline seam bowler who can really pick up wickets all the time, right? It's Shami, Bumrah, and maybe
Yeah.
one more bowler, which Siraj was missing. So how big a miss was Siraj, especially in the last two innings? Because first innings in the last match, in the second innings he was injured, and this match he was missing as well. So how big was that miss, Abhishek?
I mean, they definitely missed Siraj's, intensity when he bowls, and the line and length that he bowls, how consistent he is at making the batsman uncomfortable with his bowling. They definitely missed all of that. But you can't depend and wholly on just one bowler to bail you out, right? So again, that begs the question of the team management as to if they pick the A squad, the proper squad for this test match. And also it also begs the question of Ashwin's involvement in this test match, in the third test match.
Mm.
The spin had no involvement
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that particular pitch, but he
true.
was still picked. And he barely bowled in the third test match in both the innings, and even when he did, he was leaking runs and he
True.
wasn't a part of the
He was
wickets.
not controlling.
It also so it also goes back to the selector's decision, not just in batting, obviously that is also under scrutiny, but also picking Umesh Yadav over Ishant Sharma. Maybe Ishant Sharma would have done better, but that is also just a what about question. But we can only talk about the players that we saw playing, and Ashwin's involvement was pretty negative,
Yeah.
even though he's he's the world's test number, the number one bowler for India.
True.
But yeah, so you like the question that you gave me about Siraj, you can't wholly depend on one bowler. It's a team effort, and the team collectively failed to win.
True.
So that's the key takeaway, right?
Yeah, Nirmit, one thing which everybody's talking about is Ajinkya Rahane and Cheteshwar Pujara. This is the last time in a long while we're going to see them in test whites, because their form has been always under scrutiny from the England series. Right after Australia. Australia was where Pujara really did. Yeah, after that, they had a very poor series against England at home. After that, it continued in World Test Championship, then the England series, and also New Zealand series, where both did not do well. Now, it's of course now it's time for them, because you have someone like Vihari, Shreyas Iyer, Shubman Gill. These lads are waiting on the wings. So isn't it time to probably step aside, and Indian team should make some bold calls, especially moving ahead, because you have a series at home against Sri Lanka in starting from February end. Maybe that's where you might say a new middle order, isn't it?
Yep. Actually, like you actually correctly pointed out that, okay, Indian bowlers failed to take 20 wickets on 2 consecutive test matches, and on the final innings of the 2 consecutive test matches. But you can't always ask your bowling attack to continuously bail you out. Test matches after test matches and series after series. You need to at least give them some kind of total to defend at least once. And you can, and in a game like a test match, where you can't, you can have one match winner, and then for example in a T20 or in one day, you can have a one match winner who can actually bat you out or bowl you out of a 50 over or 20 over. But in test match, you need to have that consistency over 3, 4, 5 days period, and otherwise you won't be winning a test match. You will go on to either lose it, or you will like lose it from a drawing position or draw it from a winning position. So as far as Ajinkya Rahane and Cheteshwar Pujara both of them are concerned, I think like you can make an argument or a case for Cheteshwar Pujara that he comes at number 3, and who will you replace Cheteshwar Pujara with at number 3? And again, for Rahane, you can't make even that kind of an argument. He has been very poor, consistently poor throughout 1 year, I think, since the last Australia series. And,
I want to make an important point here as well, because you saw on that third day morning, the game was just 13 balls in. We lost 2 wickets. From there, it was Rishabh Pant and Virat Kohli who really built that 90-run partnership and bailed India out of probably even a dismal performance from what we have seen. If we would have lost a couple more wickets over there, we're looking at a score of 100 odd for South Africa to chase. And this is not the first time we're seeing it. We saw it in the World Test Championship morning of the 6th day, where the same collapse happened. Yeah. So we're seeing it's been a prolonged time where this has been happening. Morning of a day, you're losing Rahane and Pujara, and from there you have to build. So how tough it is for India now, because these both are your experienced batters and they're not stepping up.
Just like you said that so the task of building an innings should come like on the shoulder, should be like it's that task should be done by number 3, number 4, and your most experienced campaigners, which like who are actually Cheteshwar Pujara and Ajinkya Rahane. They are two of the most experienced campaigners in our squad, and both of them have been consistently failing in making playing like you don't even have to play score 50 odd runs. You just have to at least bat for 150 odd deliveries, like Kohli did in the second test when he made 79. He batted 200 deliveries, and you have to stay at the wicket in order to elongate the match duration, frustrate the opposition, and then also give the other batsmen time and assess to time to assess the situation. Once you are set in and you are 100, 120, 150 deliveries or old on a test wicket, you can go and at least say that I was set in, and then you also have a better chance of scoring more runs. The more deliveries you face, the more probability you have of scoring more runs. But in case of Pujara and Rahane, they both of them have been consistently been failing to stay at the crease. You can't you can't expect them to score 50 or 100 runs and then Virender Sehwag used to do in his days when he used to bat in a test match like he's batting in a one day or a T20 match. But you need to ask them to at least hold one end of the wicket, and being the most experienced players, you need to at least stay there, face the deliveries. You can't expect a 5, 10 or 20 or even a 50 test match old player to come and do a task which you are supposed to do at number 3 and number 4. So I think Rahane has to go, because again, this brings me back to the second point which I wanted to make, that they are experienced, which like indirectly implies that they are getting old. And you need to make a team for the next World Test Championship that if they make to the final, that they will play the final, and then they will take on the reins from these, the likes of Virat Kohli, the Pujara, the Ashwins. They will take the reins from their hands, and they will carry forward their legacy. So you need to have some kind of replacement readily available, and you need to give them chance to get that requisite experience at an international stage. So I don't think that they should, at least for the next series, they should be giving chances to you can give another chance to Pujara, but Rahane has to go, according to me. He has been consistently failing, and you have the likes of Bihari and who can actually replace him very well, and or can at least you can give them a chance to make their mark, give them an opportunity to make their mark. You need that. So that's what I have to say, like, you need to give the youngsters a chance to, in order to, for them to at least give them a chance to prove.
Yeah, Abhishek, one thing which we all are not talking about is the opening conundrum. Whenever India has won an overseas in the last 1 year, it's been openers. One of the openers have gone on to do well. Let it be the Gabba Test match where Shubman Gill scored that beautiful 91. Let it be the Oval Test match where Rohit Sharma scored that century, or even in Lords where KL Rahul scored century. Why not that? Just centurion match where KL Rahul and Mayank gave us a start. When you talk about Mayank Agarwal, he's not been really under scanner, but in the last 17 innings of an overseas Test match, he just got 150 plus score. And whenever India has done well overseas, it's been that one opener has gone to do well. And now, big miss of Rohit Sharma is a big factor, isn't it? And how big a miss it has been in this series, especially.
I mean, he was definitely missed. His batting acumen, his experience as an opener, experience as a cricketer, everything about him, his aura was missed in this Test match. But then again, it's a collective effort. You can talk about what was missed, or what could have been if that player was there instead of this player. But it starts from the team management, and comes down to how you implement the ideas that were decided before starting a Test match. So again, as I said before, the implementation part of India's on-field tactics was the major talking factor here, because they did win the toss in all 3 Test matches, and they did decide to bat in all 3, didn't they? They decided to bat in all 3, right?
Yeah,
right. But and Mayank Agarwal did get the chance to to take up the mantle of an opener with KL Rahul. But he got the chance, and today's tough stiff competition in the Indian Indian lineup, because if you underperform in just one match, you're gone. You're the second or the third choice, because there are so many other talents waiting to just get the chance to prove themselves. And it's basically what they say, that survival of the fittest. And if you don't prove yourself, he's probably gone, because Rohit Sharma will probably be fit for the next one. And even if he gets injured like he did right before the Test match, he probably, chances are that he will be skipped to someone else, like What are the guys?
Shubman Gill
I
waiting on the
forgot
wings.
the name.
You have Shubman Gill
Hmm.
waiting on the wings. You have someone
Shubman
like
Gill. Sorry,
you
yes,
have someone like
Shubman Gill.
Priyank
Yes,
Panchal who has done well in the domestic cricket, who's waiting, who's had a
yes,
good 8 in 8.
yes. There's so many other names. Yes,
Yeah.
so you get the chance, you have to capitalize on it, and he did not capitalize on it. So this is where the Indian team stands right now. Some tough decisions have to be made, and like I said, a lot of discussions could be done on what if and what about. But the fact of the matter is, Mayank Agarwal didn't capitalize on the chance that he got, and he will pay for it,
Yeah.
whether we like it or not.
This is probably the first time ever the Indian coaching staff is under a test as well, because so far they've had a good time since Rahul Dravid's
Yeah.
coaching team took over. This is the first time they were
Mhm.
really put under pressure, the whole coaching management at large. Now that brings me to an important point of tactical calls, because we've seen whenever India's played overseas in the recent past, Jadeja was the preferred spinner over Ashwin. Now, my question is, how big a miss was Jadeja? Again, I'm not talking about the misses, but Ashwin's, he's a potent spinner, but his potency of controlling runs has been a factor which Virat Kohli could have
Hmm.
relied upon in both these test matches, but it was missing. That's where South Africa capitalized as well. He went at a run rate of 4+, and that's something which you don't want in the fourth innings. And he did not pick up any
Yeah.
wickets except those 2 wickets he picked up in the last innings of the Centurion Test match, both were tailenders. Now, coming
Hmm.
to the point, Jadeja offers a lot more with the bat. And when Ashwin was left
Yeah.
out in England, everyone were pointing towards Virat Kohli and team management, and they were lashing out at him for not playing Ashwin and his ability to change the ball, match with the ball. But here we really did miss Jadeja, the person with the bat and also with the ball, because Jadeja has been an improved bowler
Hmm.
since 2019. If you notice, he has been picking up wickets consistently
Hmm.
overseas. He's been able to contribute to those good crucial 40 to 50 runs, which really helps you hold that match. And here Ashwin did play some really poor cricketing shots as well, because the way he got out in the second innings, he played a shot in the up when it was totally not required. His catch was dropped just 2 balls before
Hmm.
that. And now this is where you really miss someone like Jadeja, isn't it?
Yeah, like see, you correctly pointed out that when Ashwin was dropped in the last series, and there was a lot of hue and cry made that why was Ashwin dropped for that particular series, and why have you picked, like, you haven't picked Ashwin. But in that scenario, when you have to go for another overseas test series, this time in South Africa, the selection committee and the selectors have to make a collective decision as to what kind of team that will actually give them the best chance of winning that series. The complete squad, not just a playing 11, the complete squad. And uh, and and during my, like, when I was watching even on the third day, and as well as on the fourth day of the third test match, I I I, I automatically was going back to the question that why, like, what if Jadeja would have been, like, Jadeja would have been in the team instead of Ashwin, because is a decent, like, I consider him a better batsman than Ashwin, and the kind
Best
of pitch,
all-rounders in the world, I would say.
yeah. And even if you are comparing on bowling prowess, you can't you expect Ashwin you can't expect Ashwin to bowl the kind of balls to curtail the innings, or to curtail the run flow. So
Yeah.
you can't. Well, he's not that kind of a bowler. He's a very attacking kind of a bowler. He wants to take wickets, and even if he's leaking runs, his mindset and his, like, throughout his entire career, his mindset has been to take wickets. I'll bowl flighted deliveries. I'll be getting hit for fours or sixes. Batsmen will be charging down the track, but I'll still keep on bowling those deliveries, which will give me a higher probability of taking a wicket. We did not need that in this particular test match, because there was no help for spinners in this pitch. And then and again, like you said, Abel, that we wanted to curtail the run flow, because we did not have a large enough target to defend. And you wanted, in order to take wickets, you need to build up that pressure on the South African batsmen, and that can be done, but two things. You need to have a bowler that can bowl the right on the right length and the right kind of patches on the pitch. So so that he does not leak runs. He just like in a batting partnership, you need someone who either you need both the batsmen to chip in singles and doubles and keep on rotating the strike, or you need one batsman to hold the end and the other to hit the bowlers out of the park. The same is in the case with bowling partnership. You need one end to a wicket taking bowler to keep on chipping out with wickets, and other to build the pressure, do not give away silly runs, they do not give away easy boundaries. Though, and you with both Umesh Yadav and with Ashwin, we had two bowlers who were leaking far easy runs and far easy boundary balls for to defend a total as low as 212. And secondly, we all kind of oversee the part that Ravindra Jadeja is also one of the finest fielders in the game, and you need those kind of fielders to again stem the run flow. Better fielders means you don't let them get away, convert those ones into twos or those free boundaries. He will chase those one. And again, for me, in the last 5 or 6 years, the only cricketer who is a match winner just by the sheer brilliance on this field is Ravindra Jadeja. He
totally.
Again, it's a matter of what. Yeah. Again, it's a matter of what if. But what if he was there on the field and Keegan Peterson would had risked a single, converted a single into double, and he had a direct hit and there was a run out, and the floodgates would have opened. That's the kind of fielder he is. He will give you wickets from both bowling and by his fielding. So again, it's a matter of privilege of hindsight. But this, for me, just by the sheer brilliance in his field and the kind of bowling he does, the bowling potency he brings to the bowling squad, Ashwin should have been replaced with Jadeja in this series. In the previous series, Ashwin should have been there because the kind of pitches and the kind of the batsmen they are facing, those kind of decisions have to be made by selectors, like what kind of opposition we are facing, what kind of pitches and conditions we are getting, we are sending our team to play in, and if spinners are getting any help from the wicket, then send in Ashwin. He will give you wickets. If you're thinking that it will be a low rain interrupted test series, or it will be a low total and fast bowlers will be getting a lot of seam and swing movement, but there won't be enough for spin bowlers, there won't be enough spin for the spin bowlers on these pitches, you send in Jadeja, who can chip in with a few runs at the end of the just before the tail starts, and he can also hold his own in the bowling department, and he is a very good fielder. He will also almost guarantee at least a wicket run out over a course of 2 innings that can change the complexion of the match. So that kind of mentality has to come from the selectors, like what kind of players they want to send on the overseas match.
Having said that, Jadeja's contributions cannot be ignored at all. Especially, what comes to my mind is that Sydney first innings where Australia was building last year, and he came and picked up 4 wickets. I remember his crucial contributions in New Zealand back in 2020, and also in England in the last day of Oval Test match, he came and picked up 3 wickets, which were very crucial to change the momentum to Indian bowling efforts. So having said that, we'll end the first episode here. In the next episode, we'll be talking about that most controversial DR's decision, which did not go India's way. And we'll also be talking about what is the way ahead and who are the players you should be looking out for from Indian ranks as well. Thank you for joining us, and do join us for episode number 2.